that was.
What'd you learn, Dave?
Well, the underdogs barked big time. Top contenders go down. Bit of a wacky one. The final undefeated teams from last week both lose 2 in a row, so things are getting shaken up. Should be a pretty fun futures look for us on Thursday. Injuries just keep rolling in. Top stars can't seem to stop getting hurt, which is unfortunate. Seems to really be the wide receivers. Puka Nacua with an ankle injury, Egbuka with a hamstring injury, Calvin Ridley with a hamstring injury, though he probably wasn't doing very much anyway. Garrett Wilson with a knee injury. Just a brutal year for some of these star wideouts in pretty big situations. But fortunately, we might have a few coming back this week, something I'm looking forward to breaking down on Thursday's episode when we've got a few more practice reports and stuff. CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans looking like they are at least going to get in some limited practices. Rashee Rice back from suspension, shaking things up there. So definitely a lot to look forward to, despite some of the negative injuries and stuff that we've had going on. But got some big takeaways that you and I want to get through here. I'm going to start off with mine. It's a personal one. I know you got a personal one too, but the Cowboys may have become the easiest team to bet on this season. They have a bad defense, very good offense, which is pretty much a perfect combination if you're looking to profit on betting. Not so much if you want to enjoy watching your team week to week, but underdogs versus the Cowboys are 3-1 against the spread. They're 2-2 on the money line. Obviously, they're plus money because they're underdogs, so that's profit all the way around if you're just betting underdogs. You include the Cowboys as underdogs in their own games, 5-1 against the spread, as they've covered both against the Packers and the Eagles. Over, 4-2, that's profit. If you're parlaying the underdog to cover and the over together, that's 3-3. Because those would be plus money parlays. That's straight profit there. And of course, it is just prop city for both the Cowboys and their opposing defenses or offenses. Pickens touchdowns, Prescott's yards. He's thrown 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Opposing teams can score and move the ball at will. We saw Tito McMillan get 2 touchdowns, a guy who's on your radar this week, Greg.
Yep.
There's so much money to be made in Cowboys games here. We're going to get into this later in our picks, our spread picks, but I think they've got the biggest total they've seen so far coming up. So we're kind of curious to see how these trends continue when things change. But yeah, I mean, pretty much just a profit train, almost any angle you bet on or against this team.
Yeah, I know it's not exactly fun to talk about, as we alluded to at the top of the show, when it's your favorite team, Dave. But the simple, most fun, easy green light bet for me every single week has been whoever the best receiver is playing the Cowboys to find the end zone. It happens every single week. You think back to that Romeo Doubs game weeks ago where he had 3 touchdowns. There's big potential there, no matter who it is or who you're trying to target from a betting perspective. So hopefully it changes for the sake of your heart, but for the sake of my wallet and everyone else's, maybe it won't. My biggest takeaway here is broad at the top of this league, but I have our futures up on dimers.com here. And reminder, our futures model updates in the middle of the week. So we'll take you through the updates to the futures model on the second episode this week when we come back on Thursday. For now, I'm staring at the futures projections we looked at before week 6. We had the Bills, Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers in that order as our 4 most likely Super Bowl champions. That group went 1-5 this week outright. It was the Kansas City Chiefs that got the win. Our top 4 most likely Super Bowl champions all went 0-4, including the Bills and the Eagles, both in like a back against the wall spot here where you wanted to see the resolve of a championship caliber team. Look, I don't know what that does to the futures market. I'm honestly so curious when we come back on Thursday what that update is going to look like, because I'd have to think you go back about a decade. It's very rare that you see the 4 best teams in the league all lose in the same week. However, it's been a consistent theme from previous conversations with futures with us on this program. Should we buy the Chiefs or not? This is a team that we've kind of sold coming into the season relative to some of those other contenders. Well, they're finally getting healthy right now. They certainly looked like the better side against Detroit. Rashee Rice is coming back, as you mentioned briefly. So I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what the model tells us to do. but at least it's a data point that the door is wide open for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs again.
Yeah, I think we all kind of maybe saw this coming at least a couple of weeks ago. Then they had the letdown spot against the Jags, but they were right in there. They had the 99-yard interception return. So lots to take away there. The Chiefs certainly look like they are gaining all of their power at just the right time, with the rest of the division starting to show cracks. So, yep, so long parody. It is still the Chiefs' world. My next takeaway, sort of similar, sticking with the Cowboys, but on the other side of the game, they were just victimizing, is Rico Dowdle. Is he a secret RB weapon, the best kept secret in the NFL, perhaps, or has just been the most perfect situation? He did have two pretty bad defenses that he got to tee off against over the past 2 weeks. Essentially got 100% of the workload with Chuba Hubbard out. Really can't get any better situation than that. But after basically just those 2 games, he's 5th on the season in rushing yards. But this has got to be a split when Hubbard is back. They paid him too much money to just not play him. However, there's a very good chance he's going to become the 1B in this offense pretty much right away. If you look at our projections ahead of week 7, you've got another bottom 5 rushing defense on tap and in the week following. But he's got 29.5% anytime TD probability with 57 yards for Rico Dowdle. Compare that to Chuba Hubbard's 34.0% anytime TD probability. So slightly higher end zone equity there, but just 40.1 rushing yards. Probably going to make Hubbard more of a flex upside guy and hoping that he finds the end zone, whereas Dowdle's probably going to get more workload since we've seen he can absolutely handle an entire RB1's worth of carries. I think they were kind of treating this a little too much, against the Cowboys. He was coming off a great game, but they were acting like it was Emmitt Smith returning to face his former team and not Rico Dowdle, who started, 8 games for the Cowboys last year. But I don't think anybody came out on the wrong side of that situation. Dowdle's now got himself a nice body of work that he could probably parlay into a good contract. Hubbard is probably the biggest loser of this scenario, but it's going to be interesting to see what they have with 2 very good matchups coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yep. Yeah. Eye test to me, Dowdle's electric. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with it in the long run. Running back is one of the weirdest positions in all of sports, with just the interchangeability, and guys will look like superstars one week and not the next. But for him to back up that first explosive performance with the second one, at least should have everyone's attention. And I think I'm buying it could sustain if they so choose to have it sustain. For my last takeaway here, something I'm keeping an eye on, I want to move to the AFC North, because we, back to previous futures conversations again, have always discussed how our model has held strong that there will be a bounce back for the Baltimore Ravens at some point. Now, look, Lamar Jackson is out. I have no idea at this point when Lamar Jackson's going to come back, but this has trended so far in the wrong direction for Baltimore. 1-5 on the season now. Coming into this week, reminder, it was even odds between both Baltimore and Pittsburgh, both around +110, +115 to win this division. Our model had still, even with the slow start, given Baltimore a 51% chance of winning this division coming into last week. I have to imagine Pittsburgh at this point is the favorite. We'll see what the model says on Thursday. But, you look at the NFL standings right now in that division, you've got Pittsburgh sitting there at 4-1. You've got the rest of this division on a combined 0-11 streak right now. In fact, it's not just the records that are misleading in the AFC North, but with the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns, they have 3 of the 4 worst point differentials in the entire NFL. Now, I understand it's quarterback issues, right? Without Joe Burrow and without Lamar Jackson and the change with Cleveland, obviously moving from Flacco to Gabriel, there's a lot in flux. But the bottom line, Pittsburgh's not in flux. They're playing good football right now. They're capitalizing on the fact that there's so much chaos in this division. And, you look ahead right now, Pittsburgh has only played 1 interdivision game. They've got Cincinnati coming up soon. if this division really is going to keep trending where it is, I think Pittsburgh runs away with this, and I'm wondering if it's too late to try and bet them to steal this division.
Might be, if they keep winning, they're not going to get longer odds, minus 190 right now. So the books, who themselves were hesitant to paint them as the favorite, have now obviously gone with that. I feel like with the Ravens, you have to wonder. It's far too early to be talking about shutting down Lamar Jackson, but say he misses another week. I'm not sure if they've had their bye yet. So, depending when that is, that's another week where Lamar isn't playing. Well, nobody is, but, where he's not playing. And then you're like, what is he coming back for? If this team is 1-6, 1-7, what are you playing your franchise superstar, yearly MVP candidate quarterback for? So, gonna be really curious to see how this plays out. But, I mean, it looks like Steelers are going to run away, and Aaron Rodgers is getting his final ride, which, depending on what happens, may not be the final ride. And we'll have to hear from him, I guess, all off season. But for now, yeah, looking like Steel City, man.
Nothing sounds more miserable than hearing from Aaron Rodgers for another 12 months, but here we are, Dave.
The real Super Bowl champion or contender in Pennsylvania was Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers all along.
Ugh, brutal. All right, you've got a rant for us here on NFL scheduling.
Oh, yeah. I just got to get this out real quick. The scheduling is insane this year. More international games than ever. Now, 3 weeks in a row, or at least 3 weeks of the season, we have a Monday Night Football doubleheader. There is another one next week. These stink. You either have a game on Monday at 10 p.m., which nobody wants, coming up next week, or 2 games happening at the same time on a Monday, which also nobody wants, because it ruins the primetime experience. The Jags are making their annual trip back home to London this coming week. These teams don't even get to play the Rams. These teams don't even get a bye week coming back lately. Seems like the Vikings got one. They were over there for 2 weeks. They probably didn't even need it. And then you have these teams over there making a 1 week stop. They don't even get a bye. Just like poor football, poor product. I would like this to change. The entire scheduling as a whole is just a jumbled mess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, right? It annoys me. I despise the fact that there's simultaneous Monday Night Football games. That is the worst thing that has happened to my football watching experience in 32 years of life. The European games, I could go either way on. There's a weird sicko portion of my brain that kind of enjoys rolling out of bed at 9 a.m. and there's immediate football on. Now, I wish that they were better football games, because they typically are a sloppy, jumbled mess. And, often we put teams that are worthy of a sloppy, jumbled mess in that game. So I think I'd feel different about it if we were trying to send like the best product teams over there for multiple weeks. It hasn't been that way, at least early in the season. I don't know what the schedule is for the rest of it, but I'm with you on the doubleheaders. Can we please get Roger Goodell to save us from that, Dave? It's too hard to bet 2 games at once.